Shalom. It's your brother Malcolm, giving all thanks, glory, and honor unto Yahweh Bashem Abishai, who I worship. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, who are the true leaders of all Israel on earth today. Salutations to the Akim that are out there doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. Salutations to the confusion of faith brothers that are pushing this word, doing the same. And salutations to the Akwaf that are listening and learning. To you I say Shalom. All right, may this lesson be a blessing unto the seed of Jacob and be a curse unto the seed of Esau. All right, because these lessons really hurt them. That's why they get on the comment boards and spew all sorts of madness. This is going to be the next edition of Let the Bible Speak. But beforehand, I'm going to go into a little bit of history. All right, this book I haven't read thoroughly yet. I've only just skimmed through it, and I found a couple things that were interesting, and it decided to make me do this lesson the way that I'm doing it today. And it's a book by Martin, circa 1695, and his eyewitness to the Western Islands of Scotland. So it's called A Description of the Western Islands of Scotland. All right. And I just read the back. It says, it is 300 years since Martin's great journey around the Western Isles of Orkneys and Shetland. The first of the greatest of travelers in Scotland, Martin is also unique in being the only native Gaelic speaker amongst them. This gives his account unique and authoritative resonance, which makes it even today a mine of information on history, customs, traditions, like the Hebrides, which is a word of saying Hebrew. All right. It also casts light on the Isles during the crucial period of history when old structures of society still held sway before the Jacobite rebellions altered society irrevocably. Sir Monroe Hyden, it's got a weird glare. There it is. Of the Isles, wrote his description of the Western Islands of Scotland in 1549. He presents a fascinating record of pastoral visit in the islands, still coping with the turbulent period after the fall of the lords of the Isles. Okay, so Martin says he didn't necessarily believe Sir MacDonald Monroe, so he wanted to do it for himself. All right, now, like I said, I haven't read it thoroughly, and I was looking for something that just said, dark skin, woolly hair, thick lips, and that whole sort of thing. But I hadn't seen anything. Like I said, I haven't read it intensely. Yes, I was just skimming through it, and I found a couple things that were interesting. All right. For example, here on page 26, it reads, "They have agreeable and hospitable temper for all strangers. They concern themselves not about the rest of mankind, except the inhabitants of the north parts of Lewis." And that's a trait of the Israelites, which he already admitted. He was calling them Jacobites and Hebrides, all right, because they were a remnant and residue of those people. Okay, and when you learn about the uprising, the Jacobite uprising, basically that's when Cromwell was getting rid of the seed of Israel. When you have those, because people will always bring up the fact that Irish were sold into slavery, that they were put in chains and put on slave ships. That was true, but those pale-faced Irishmen though had Negroid forefathers. Hence the reason why they were sold into slavery, because Cromwell was trying to get rid of that Israelite line, that Hebride line, and then of course they referred to themselves as Anglo-Saxons, as if they were the Hebrews today. All right, this is why they pushed that lie. But Cromwell was the one behind that. All right, we're going to do some extensive history on Cromwell. I got a book right here about him and some of the things that he did, which backs up what I said about him. All right, but next one, this is really interesting. This is on page 24, and it said, this gave ground to a tradition which the natives have of a very low-statured people living once here, called Lusburden, pygmies. They were referred to them as pygmies and said that they were small. All right, let's look up the word pygmy. This is out of the Winston. As a matter of fact, I'll show that to you. I highlighted it. All right, on page 24, they were called pygmies. Okay, so let's look up the word pygmies in the Winston Simplified Encyclopedia Dictionary 1933, or the Winston Simplified Dictionary Encyclopedic Edition with biblical references 1933. Pygmy, it reads, one of a race of a very small African. Yeah, gonna have a couple scoffers really up in arms about that. Now here's a book called The Negro Question. All right, and in between pages on pages 4, 5, and 6, they are listed 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Well, I'll just read them off. Professor Winchell Alexander, all right, and he gives a description of black people in northern Africa that overran Europe. They were known as Britons, all right. Roman historian Tacitus, the origins of the Black Britons, all right. So these are very well known, accredited historians who were eyewitness, some of them, to this what happened and to these things that happened, and this information goes back over 1,000 years. All right, Tacitus was there in Rome. All right, Joseph Risco, Annals of the Chaldean Picts in Scots, Volume 2, pages 7 and 27. Picts, Brits are brown complexion with curly hair. Brown complexion with curly hair. All right. Albert Churchwood, Origin of the Evolution. Black boxworks were exterminated from Europe. And how? Through Oliver Cromwell. Professor Boyd Boykins, Our Earliest Ancestors' Bygone Days, a lecture delivered in the public hall, Collyhurst, Manchester in 1879. And it reads, the ancient Britons and Irish Scots are short black people. Dr. Turnham, because we're reflecting back to the pygmies, it said, Dr. Turnham, and that was just one island, because there were many islands described in this book. In his book, all these different islands that made up, that were off the coast of Scotland, and then how they were infighting against each other, and that's just what the Southern Kingdom, well, in the Northern Kingdom for some cases, but the Southern Kingdom still does that to this day. They're all separated by gangs, even though they're the same people, and they'll fight against each other. All right, it's part of the curses. Dr. Turnham, Nature, the Journal of Science, page 92. The evidence at hand, it seems that the Iberian black man occupied the whole Western Europe at one time. And it's true, because the relics and the evidence is still there all over Europe, man. You can't deny it, all right? Because it was always white. Why would there be so many black statues and faces everywhere? Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo were given the charge to destroy them, but they couldn't. They couldn't destroy them all. It was too many. The Iberian boss black bones have been found all over Europe with his animals, okay? So let's turn the page, and it says, Professor Boyd Boykins, Professor of Genealogy, Manchester University, London, 1879, Our Remote Ancestry, pages 95 through 106, and I'm just going to read it. It said, the original people of Britain, Spain, and England were short black men about 5'6" in height. All right. Our fathers were a warlike people who by 607 A.D. had pushed the box west into Wales, Cumberland, Westmore, and the Highlands of Scotland and Devon. So there's even a section in this book says that fighting tactics. All right, war tactics. Okay, so that came from the book The Negroid Question, and he just listed all these different professors in the 17 and 1800s which were declaring the truth, which is basically not spoken and taught in universities today. So all this information that I'm giving you basically has been swept under the rug. And by whom? Because Esau Edom came into power and he couldn't rule over Europe or the modern world with that history being made known. Hence the reason why the Bible Destruction Group conveniently removed the Apocrypha, because the Apocrypha has way too much information in it, and it lets you know 100% that the Romans the Grecians and the Romans and the Grecians was spawned from Alexander, and that Alexander and his father were not Greeks. They took over Greeks and called themselves by them names, but they were descendants of Esau, Edom. You can trace Alexander the Great and his father back to Amalek, who was a grandson of Esau, Edom. All right, and this is what they do. They go into a land of Scots, they call themselves Scots. They go into a place of English, they call themselves English. They come to America, they refer to themselves America. They went into Greece, and they call themselves Greeks. This is what they do. So let's just get some scriptures to finish these things out. All right, I'm going to start with Psalms 64 and 8, because these books reveal the lies that they cover up, that they refuse to teach the truth. They try to cover it up and lie about it. This is Psalm 64 and 8. So that they shall make their tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. So their tongues are falling upon themselves. These books, they were so arrogant, they put all this information in books, man. All right. The smart thing would have been not to remove the Apocrypha from the 1611, but to just simply destroy it in its entirety. But the arrogance of Esau. But, the Lord put that on them. All right. He gave them that, they thought they were smart. They were really foolish, man. This is Psalms 10 and 7. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. So when you go to school today, and you're not going to learn all this information about all these historians, all these scholars, these all these learned men of science and history that they wrote down and documented. They're not going to teach you that, man. You got to learn that on your own. They're going to teach you a bunch of bull stuff, and they're going to teach you whitewash history. I had a conversation about that with a Edomite client of yesterday, who readily admits, because she's in a theater company, and I guess there's a lot of infighting in the theater company, because just go to show you, Esau's women are turning against them, because the women in the company are just fed up with whitewash history. Because she mentioned how they done Shakespeare, and we were talking about the Moors, and she said, well, if the Moors were only in Portugal and Spain, it says Othello is the Moor of Venice. So that means the Moors he said, so was Othello the only just lone Moor, rich, wealthy Moor in Venice, and all the rest of them were in Portugal and Spain? And it's like, come on, man, let's look. Esau has proved himself to be the most hateful and racist people on the planet. So you mean to tell me in the 1500s, you're going to have this white guy, this so-called black man running around Italy, screwing white women? A rich girl from a wealthy family at that? He would have been tarred and feathered and hung, man, a quarter, tied to a horse and 4 horses, and they ran in 4 different directions, man. So you think Shakespeare was gonna in his time, because we read in the book how it said that Europe was originally black. So you mean to tell me that Shakespeare is going to write a story about a black man having sex with a white woman in the 1500s in a place that was always all white? Are you kidding me? You people are really okay. Now let's jump to the next scripture, which is Psalms 85 and 11, because they still will try to dispute that, but the history itself, actually, let me jump down to 10 and 11. He said in his heart, God hath forgotten, he hideth his face, he will never see it. No, the Lord is going to remember what you Edomites did, man. All right, you're gonna get. Actually, it's starting now with this truth, because this truth hurts you so much. That's why you constantly stay on the comment boards, man. But this is Psalms 85 and 11. The truth shall spring forth out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. And so all these relics, including like this one, this Coburg Moor, this very well dressed, full of, you can see that he's wearing gold rings, big gold earrings. He's got a sword. Looks like he has a cistern and a shield with his family crest. This was royalty in Germany, man. This is one of the Coburg Moors, man. All right, with his big afro. Hence the reason why you see the British royalty, the guards at the British that surround the palace had on those big hats because they're trying to simulate this big afro. All right, just like you got this Romanian images on that church from the 6th century, 6th or 7th century. All the saints and the angels have brown skin and big woolly afros. Okay, you can't get around this stuff, man. All right, they can talk and say the silly stuff all they want, but you can't get around this truth. Last scripture. This is 2nd Ezra 6, verses 27 and 28. It says, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. And as for faith, it shall flourish, and corruption shall be overcome. And the truth have been so long without fruit shall be declared." So it's over for you Edomites, man. You so-called white people. You know? So with that, I hope this was an edifying and uplifting lesson to Israel and a very condemning and hurtful and painful revealing to the so-called white man who was Esau Edom. Shalom.